I've noticed something over the last year or two, and I can't quite decide whether it's a genuine shift in technology or whether I'm simply noticing it more because of the products I spend my time reviewing over on my other channel, The Spark. On The Spark, I've spent the last 3 years or so talking about Kindles, which main purpose is to read, and every now and again another company launches an e-ink notebook such as Remarkable that strips away distractions instead of adding more features. Then just this week I came across another example. Commodore, the legendary computer brand that was recently revived by YouTuber Christian Simpson from Retro Recipes fame, has announced the Callback 8020. It's a flip phone, but not in the way you might expect. In a world where everyone seems to be competing to make smartphones even smarter, Commodore has gone almost in the opposite direction. The Callback 8020 deliberately blocks social media, web browsers and email while still giving the essentials like calling, messaging, maps and music. It isn't trying to replace your laptop, your camera or every other gadget you own. Instead, it's trying to create a phone that's intentionally less distracting. And that got me thinking. After decades of companies trying to cram more and more into every device they make, why does it suddenly feel as though some of the most interesting products are the ones that deliberately do less? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weekly Spark, where each week I chat about something meaningful from the worlds of Kindle, iPad, e-ink and related technology. Now, before we go any further, I should probably explain what this video isn't. I'm not about to tell you smartphones are ruining society. They're not. They're one of the most remarkable pieces of consumer technology ever invented. I use mine constantly, and frankly, I couldn't do without it. I'm recording this very video on it. Neither is this one of those technology was better in the old days videos, because I don't think that's true either. AI is going to become an even bigger part of our lives over the next few years, and in many cases, I think that's going to be a genuinely good thing. But alongside all of that, I can't help feeling that something else is happening at the same time. If you think about the last 30 years of consumer technology, the direction has always been pretty obvious. Every new generation of products tries to do more than the one that came before. Our mobile phones became cameras, then they became sat-navs. They replaced MP3 players, diaries, calculators, notebooks, alarm clocks, and eventually even our wallets. Now, this isn't a bad thing, it's genuinely revolutionary, and most of us probably wouldn't want to go back. But I do wonder whether somewhere along the way, we've accidentally created a new problem. The more capable our devices became, the more they started competing for our attention. And I don't just mean that in some vague, dramatic technology is ruining us kind of way. I mean in the very ordinary, everyday sense that one device now carries almost every possible distraction we could reach for. I've been thinking recently about how that affects my relationship with my iPhone. I pick it up to check one thing and moments later I'm somewhere completely different. Messages, emails, news, alerts, WhatsApp groups, browser tabs, a quick check of the weather. None of it is terrible on its own, but together it creates this constant pull to be somewhere else. Now, as someone who makes YouTube videos, it's incredibly easy to find yourself opening YouTube Studio without even thinking about it. And eventually I realized I wasn't checking because I needed to. I was checking because I got into the habit. Then I noticed something else. Kathy, that's my wife, and we'd sit down and we'd watch telly. And before long, suddenly my phone was in my hand. Nothing urgent, no important emails, no crisis that needed solving. I just absent-mindedly started scrolling while watching the program at the same time. And 5 minutes later, I'd have to turn to Kath and ask, what just happened? And more often than not, we'd end up rewinding because I hadn't really been watching it at all. I suspect I'm not the only person doing that. And that's when I started wondering whether products like Kindles, dedicated writing devices, and even tiny e-ink readers are becoming ever more popular for a reason that has very little to do with the technology itself. For years, the message was always the same: more features, more apps, more power, more connectivity. If your latest gadget didn't do more than the one before it, then what was the point of upgrading? Today, my iPhone can do things I couldn't imagine even just 20 years ago. It can translate languages, edit 4K video, navigate me across the country, identify plants, pay for my shopping, and increasingly it's becoming an AI assistant as well. It is truly an astonishing piece of engineering. So why would anybody willingly spend hundreds of pounds on a device that does less? Take a Kindle, for example. Whenever I review one, there are always people who ask, why not just read on your phone? And that's a perfectly reasonable question, because technically, yes, you can. The Kindle app is excellent and your phone is almost certainly with you all of the time. In terms of convenience, the phone wins. And yet, millions of people still buy Kindles. When I pick up my Kindle, I'm not wondering whether I've got an email waiting for me. I'm not tempted to check YouTube Studio. Instagram isn't asking for my attention, and neither is WhatsApp. The Kindle has one job, and it gets on with it. And the same thing applies to that little XT e-ink X4 that I recently reviewed. When I first looked at it, I kept asking myself, who is this actually for? It's tiny. It doesn't even have a touchscreen. But it isn't trying to compete with the Kindle Paperwhite feature for feature. After living with it for a while, I started to understand the appeal. Not because it was the most capable reader I'd ever used, quite the opposite. It's because it knows exactly what it wants to be. That got me thinking about another product I reviewed over the last couple of years, the Quirky Writer typewriter. Now, I'll be honest, when I first reviewed that keyboard, I assumed it would appeal to a fairly small group of people. After all, modern keyboards are faster, quieter, and significantly cheaper. Yet those Quirky Writer videos are still being watched a few years later, and people are still buying them. I know, because every now and again I get a little affiliate kickback. And that's really interesting. Because if this was simply about getting words onto a screen as quickly as possible, nobody would buy one. Clearly, something else is going on. And then there's vinyl. Streaming is undoubtedly more convenient. I can ask my smart speaker to play almost any song ever recorded within seconds. Yet vinyl records are continuing to sell in even larger numbers. My 17-year-old son Nathaniel even released his latest homemade album on vinyl and was so excited to see his very own copy in his hands. I'll put a link in the description, you can check it out. Now, this all doesn't make much sense if convenience is the only thing people care about. Maybe what we're actually looking for are experiences that feel more intentional. Experiences where we choose one thing and give it our attention for the whole time we're using it. And that brings me back to that Commodore flip phone. What caught my attention wasn't the fact that it folds, although that is pretty cool. I do miss the old flip phones. And it wasn't even the Commodore name. It was the thinking behind it. Its creators aren't saying smartphones are bad. They're saying there are moments when perhaps we don't need social media, endless notifications, the entire internet sitting in our pocket. That's quite a different argument. It's not anti-technology. It's asking whether technology should always demand our attention or whether sometimes it should simply help us do one thing well. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into all of this. Maybe these are just niche products aimed at enthusiasts like me. But when I look across everything I've reviewed over the last few years, I don't think that's the whole story. There's a common thread running through almost all of them. Whether it's a Kindle, an e-ink notebook, a digital typewriter, or even a tiny e-reader, they're all asking the same question. What if doing less isn't actually a weakness? What if, in a world where almost everything is competing for our attention, it's become one of the biggest strengths a product can have? Neither do I think this is simply about nostalgia. Nostalgia doesn't explain everything. There's nothing nostalgic about a Kindle. There's nothing nostalgic about a Books tablet or a Remarkable. They're modern products solving a modern problem. And perhaps that's the real point. For years, we've judged technology by asking one question: what else can it do? Maybe we're starting to ask a different question: what helps me focus? Those are very different ways of looking at technology. One celebrates capability, the other values clarity. When I pick up my Kindle, I know exactly why I've picked it up: to read. When somebody buys a dedicated writing device, they know exactly why they bought it: to write. There's something quite refreshing about products that know exactly what they are and don't spend all day trying to persuade you to do something else instead. Maybe that's why I found myself leaving my phone upstairs on an evening every now and again. Not because I dislike it, not because I'm trying to disconnect from the modern world, simply because I occasionally want to be fully present in whatever I'm doing, whether that's watching a show, reading a book, or just enjoying an evening without feeling the need to see whether another subscriber has appeared in YouTube Studio. Perhaps that's what all these products have in common. They're not asking us to abandon technology, they're giving us permission to use technology more intentionally. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe this is just a handful of niche products that happen to have caught my attention. Or maybe we're witnessing the start of a genuine shift in what people value. After decades of asking technology to do more and more, perhaps we're beginning to appreciate products that know when enough is enough. As always, I'd love to know what you think. Have you noticed this shift as well? Or do you think I'm reading far too much into it? Let me know in the comments, because I do read every single one and they often shape future videos. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It tells YouTube that this video is worth watching. The Weekly Spark is still very much a small channel and I need all the help I can get. And if you'd like to support the channel more directly, you can buy me a digital coffee by either scanning the QR code on the screen or use the link in the description. Thanks for watching. I'm Mark from the Weekly Spark, and I'll see you in the next one.